Hello guys, welcome to this new lection. I will continue with JavaScript basics. What I'm gonna do in this lection is I'm gonna show you the examples which I prepared for you and for myself, of course, and I'm gonna go through Ajax, do manipulation, remoting, dynamic behavior. In the previous lection I showed it to you theoretical part, and I was doing examples as well. At the same time, it took me quite a lot of time to do that. Now I will concentrate only on the examples, and hopefully this will take less time, will be faster, and I'm not gonna waste your time. Okay, let me comment everything from the previous lection, still with the experiment JavaScript file. What I'm gonna do is comment everything here. I don't need that. I'm gonna start again in the very same file. I'm not gonna open another file, I'm not gonna create another file, so you will know where you can find everything following tutorials. Again, I'm gonna use the wrapper, which I show it to you, which allows me not to pollute the global namespace function. Wrap everything in the body of a function. Show you again. Let me show you again everything. So I'm using index.html in the folder Stoyan. You will find this later in the FMI project in the GitHub. Everybody will have access to that. So in the folder Stoyan Chereshadov, I have an index.html which I'm using for my English lessons. JavaScript is in JavaScript.js, experiment.js. CSS is in experiment.css. Okay, in the images I don't have anything. Absolutely standard structure. Here it is. I have the experiment CSS open and the JavaScript file, and as I said, I just open a new function which I'm gonna use as a wrapper to show you the rest of what I think it's important in JavaScript to do the examples. Okay, so let me start with example number 1. As you can see, I'm using an event handler. Everything what I want to explain will be defined, will be in this event handler. In this case, I don't have to use the wrapper because everything is wrapped already in this event handler, as I said, window on load, function, blah blah, but expect the identifier and instead of so yeah, let me see what that yeah, of course, curly brackets. Okay, why I'm doing this, JavaScript, every JavaScript program has two periods in its life cycle. First is the teenage, if you want to call it this way, teenage period, where the HTML gets read by the browser, and the browser is building the Doom tree. This is the first part of the life, and the second part of the life is after emitting the event on load, when the browser actually notifies with the event on load everybody who is listening on the event on load after emitting the event on load. Then the Doom tree is built, and the JavaScript can attach to different nodes elements and listen for different events. This is the second part of the JavaScript life, in the adult life, if you want to call it this way. So we have a teenage period and the adult period. And because some of the things I want to show you especially the DOM manipulation, remoting, and the dynamic behavior, can be shown only in the second part of the JavaScript lifecycle. That's why I'm wrapping everything in one event handler, anonymous function or callback function, which I assign to unload event. It's event handler, as I said. It's gonna handle what's gonna happen on load. Okay, so, and as you can see, and I mentioned already, in this case I don't need this wrapper. I just will keep it for any case, because I may type something outside and I don't want to pollute the global namespace, even though I'm sure that in this page nobody else is gonna inject JavaScript files and it's not gonna do anything. JavaScript really deserves a separate set of lections. I keep repeating that because it's a huge matter. It's not easy. It's a very difficult language. It's created as C++++. It's a language for artificial intelligence. I want to mention all these terms, even though I'm mentioning them a little bit out of order and I don't have them in the mind map. Probably I will try to organize and add these terms and these explanations in the mind map as well. I just try under one branch, which is very small, to give you a lot more information than I initially was thinking. Okay, so now in the previous lection I already was talking about the objects and the three ways they can be created. I'm gonna demonstrate this very quickly with examples. And in the code it's gonna be a little bit more organized, because as you can see I have Roman 1 objects, Arabic 1 created as literal expression or expression. Here we go. How can we create object? Variant number 1, way number 1, create as literal expression. This is how it works. You just create one object, one empty object, and after that you assign properties using two different ways if you like. Of course I prefer the dot syntaxes, but you can use angle brackets. Angle brackets play their role as well when we want dynamic properties, when we access different properties dynamically. Okay, so let me try and make sure that we don't have any errors. We don't. Okay. Now, secondly, we can create an object by the use of a standard class object class. What a kind of what a repetition. So this is a constructor which constructs and helps us to create an object in JavaScript. It creates a certain class of objects, and it's a standard already predefined in JavaScript, so we don't have to take care of that. We don't have to define a function constructor. Okay, this is the second way we create objects, and the third way to create objects, it's by use of a function constructor. I think I already spoke about that in the previous version lection. I'm going to repeat again very quickly. As I said, this lection I will try to be more pragmatic, not waste your time. But at the same time, we have to spend a little bit time just to understand all these things, just to wrap our heads around it. So that's why I'm not in the hurry. I just want you to be able to follow me, because the ideas are quite complicated, I think. Okay, so now I'm gonna comment all these two first ways of creating objects and leave just the third way of creating objects by using a function constructor. This function constructor helps us to construct an object of a certain class. There is an entire group which we call a class of object which can be created this way. And here it is. This is how it's done. We define the properties which we want to have in each object. We define, of course, a methods. This is just another property. It's just called a method because to this property is assigned a function. And here I'm showing the inheritance. I can inherit from another object which has different properties, different methods also. And this is how I instantiate one object. I forgot to do something here. I should say my class. Before I do that, actually, I'm gonna show you what I forgot to do. Now, if we ask my class, my prototype constructor, what is your constructor, is gonna answer object constructor. Let's see what the answer will be. Unexpected token. Yeah, okay, let me see where the problem is. This method function alert blah blah function class prototype alert class undefined. Let me look at here. Window unload. Yeah, of course. I'm missing the closing bracket. And all this should be a little bit to the right. Actually, what I can do is select everything and push it. Function object, native code. Notice that. So I'm asking right now my class. Wait a second. I have to ask my object, what is your constructor? Alert. Let's see now, what does it say? Function object native code. See, function object native code. We are asking my object, which we just have instantiated by the use of our class. Of course, this should be capital, just to make the difference between the functions which are meant to be executed and the functions which are meant to be constructors. And this function, obviously, it's a class. It defines a class of objects. Okay, so as you can see, when we ask who is your constructor, our object answers object native code, but in fact should answer with my class. And this is because in the prototype we didn't assign the constructor. If you right now we say prototype constructor, we will get the right answer. this is mentioned in the JavaScript definitive guide written by David Flanagan. You can find this example for the pseudo-classical inheritance and style, actually. Here it is. Now the answer is absolutely correct in both cases. Okay, so those are the three ways to create an object. 1, 2, 3. You can find this into the example later. I just will comment this now, and we will leave the objects now. We'll move further in the example. I spoke already in the previous lecture about the universal properties and methods. And okay, let's it's not gonna take too much time. Let's do that. Just gonna comment this alerts. It's a tutorial about showing all these things. Universal properties and methods. My object, here it is, my object. It has been constructed by my class. I'm showing here the inheritance as well, and I'm showing how to instantiate one object of this class. Now the properties. Constructor. This already has been demonstrated, but just for the sake of the consistency and following certain order, I'm gonna do it again. Alert my object constructor function. See, the constructor is properly displayed, and this is the only property actually of an object. Methods. Let's see the methods. To string. Let's see what that gives us. This is the first alert. My object to string object object. Again. The string in fact is in square brackets, object object. Let's copy all of them and just see the results, and after that we'll finish like that. My object to string, to locale string, I already explained this in the previous lecture that it's gonna try to show you the locale according to your location, if you are using English, United States or something else. My object value of should show the value. My object has on property prop1. Let's see if we have such thing. Yeah, we do have. It's gonna show true. My object is enumerable, prop1. It's gonna show true as well, because enumerable is can be catched in a loop, in a for loop. Object is prototype of my object. We are asking object, the standard object is a prototype of my object, and it is, because all the objects in JavaScript are prototype already of the standard object. Let me try to do this. My object to string, my object to local string, object object, as you can see. My object value, object object again. My object has on property prop1, true. Yes, we do have such property. Is enumerable, true. Yeah, it can be catched in a loop. My object prototype of false. Object is prototype of my object. Yeah, because we changed the prototype here. Probably that's why it's showing that it's not direct prototype. Object is not direct prototype of this object. Okay, so example 1, let me bring it back again. I just closed it by mistake. Operators, we're not gonna do that. Let me demonstrate again the functions. The three way of creating functions: function literal, function statement, function literal, and with the help of a class function. Okay, so this is the most important about the functions. As I said, there will be a little bit repetition, but alert my function. Let me see now what's wrong again. I'm not calling this function, of course. That's why we don't see this alert. I'm here. I am here, of course. Literal or expression. Here I'm even trying to show you more, and I will explain in a second what's more here. Okay, this is a function literal, and notice something. I'm gonna attract your attention to arguments, this internal variable which we have actually. Yeah, let me comment this, of course, because function already has been defined. So notice this. There is a arguments. This is a special variable. It's array-like variable. It has a property length, but in arguments you can find all the arguments sent to the function. Right now it's obvious that we can have two arguments, but if we send only one or three or four or more arguments, all the arguments can be found here just by iterating through arguments. And here I want to show you something else. Arguments callee. Notice something. Even though it's defined as a function literal, this function has a name. Why do we need a name? If we want recursion to create a recursion, then we will need a name for this function. So we allow it to do that. Or another way, anonymous way to call the function itself is by using arguments callee, which is deprecated in ECMAScript 5. So this is the preferable way, just to give a name, to this function, which is a function literal. Okay, let's try and see if we have errors. We don't have errors. Okay, this is the second way to define a function as a literal. And the third way, which I showed in the previous version, and even the IDE complained about that, is with function class. Here it is. Again the same, my function, but this time with the help of a function class. Argument 1, argument 2, and look at now what the IDE says. Unset variable, that's unused variable, that's normal, but the function constructor is evil. Yeah, and that's true. Okay, so those are the three ways to create functions in JavaScript. Let me see what else I want to discuss with you in this lecture. Here I'm describing the way we can construct an object using a function. This is a function constructor. Inheritance, which I show you already. This is a pseudo-classical technique. functional technique which I showed you as well. Methods: Douglas-Crockford approach, closure, function style, functional style. Third. Now let's get to something more practical. Now, DOM manipulation. This is something brand new. Because of this DOM manipulation, I just wrapped actually whatever I'm doing into this event handler on load. DOM is a different standard. DOM means document object model. In fact, when we send the HTML to the browser, the HTML is a recipe for the browser. How to build a DOM tree. Once the DOM tree is built, it actually consists by nodes, and there are different type of nodes. One of them are elements. Another type of node, for example, could be a comment. Okay, and the DOM tree methods and properties are described in the DOM standard, the document object model. You can find this in the W3 school, for example, schools. If you go there, oops, you can find the properties and a lot of things. Let me see where the DOM is. It has been there. I can make a Google search, of course, and find XML DOM. Here we go. Web preference, XML DOM, HTML DOM. They should have, yeah, here we go. This is the reference, very good reference, please use it. So I'm gonna directly show you how to manipulate the DOM in order to change something. In my example, which I have prepared, I have node list, one variable. This is the identifier, node list. But look at now, I'm using a DOM tree method. Document, actually, it's an object created by the browser. It's DOM, it's a separate standard from ECMAScript 5 or JavaScript. Usually the people, when they say that JavaScript is bad, they didn't mean JavaScript, because they don't understand. They mix these two terms. They mean the DOM. Document object model is not a perfect. Hopefully it's gonna become better, but right now it's not the perfect thing, but it's getting better. Okay, so when you say get element by tag name, get elements, notice the plural, by tag name, in node list we'll have one array, one JavaScript array, and this is how we iterate the array. This is how we can find all the div elements on the page. So far we don't have any. Look, we don't have div anywhere. So let's see what's gonna happen. Alert is not called even once, but as soon as we create div element, this is my test, we'll see the result. See, object HTML div element. The first one has been found and shown. This is my test. This is how we actually address and manipulate different elements in the web page. I can explicitly address something, for example, by using, let's say that's a paragraph, by using ID. We will assign one ID to one element. ID equals, let's say, this is my P. P Raspberry Pi. No, this is my Pi. Okay, let's call it my Pi. Okay, and I can use another method, which again is a standard DOM method, which is called get element by ID, and I will mention the name get element by ID, and I will say my Pi. And in this case it's not gonna be node list, it's gonna be only one object, which I'm gonna call element. And I'm gonna call alert again to show the element. Okay, I'm expecting 2 times alert. Object HTML div element, and the second time object HTML paragraph element. You can see all the properties and methods for the elements here on the document object model. As I said, one source could be a W3 schools. This is where we can find all the properties and methods. I have part of the properties. Here they are. I'm just gonna copy and paste them to show you some of them. There will be a lot of alerts. Instead of alert, I could be using console log, but I did it with alert because when I have created those examples, I think Internet 6 still was ruling the world, and console log wasn't existing by that time. So for Internet Explorer I had to use alert. This is the old way of developer applications, but it works at least for all the browsers. So those are part of the properties of one standard DOM element. See, node list 0 alert. Wait a second. Yeah, I say I'm mentioning 0, even though there are many. There could be many diffs on the HTML page. I'm just taking the first one to show different properties. Parent node, we'll see what that means, and I'm showing you with arrows. Child nodes, and so on and so forth. Let me put something child here in this div. Let me put, for example, age 5, and I will put subtitle. Let me do this a little bit better. The indents are not correct here. Okay, so I would do it somehow like that. Paragraph. Let me think about HTML5. How we would do it: section, a site, navigation, and paragraph content. No, we don't need that right now. So, okay, let's call JavaScript and see what happens now. Object, where this comes from, I'm gonna show that. It comes from this alert here. We're taking all the elements, all the div elements, we're looping through them, and here we're showing each one of them. In this case I have only one div, so I'm not expecting more divs. Object div element, this alert. Now object HTML paragraph element, let me show you that. Actually I'm recording right now on a very high resolution, it's a HD, so hopefully you will be able to see. This is this alert, which I addressed absolutely. I mean, I have assigned unique identifier for this element. As you can see, that happens by using an attribute, HTML tag attribute ID. It should be unique for the entire page, paragraph element. And now I'm expecting to see all these alerts. Node list on the div parent node, which is body. So I'm expecting to see body. Yep, here it is. I was right. The parent of the div is body. Now let's see the child nodes, and the first one is H2 if I'm not mistaken, or H5. So let's see what it is. Object text. Here's a little bit more difficult. Object text. I'm not gonna go into the investigation of this object text. You just have to trust me this time that it shows you the child nodes. Object text. First child is again object text. Now it's gonna show me the last child. Again object text. Next sibling. Again object text. Previous sibling. Object text. Node list style background gray. Here I'm not only alerting, but at the same moment, what I'm doing is I'm changing the style, the background to gray. Let's see what happens. Here it is. Here it is. You see how everything what is enclosed into this div tag became, the background became gray. It's printing gray. Inner HTML. Right now I'm gonna change the content. It's gonna become I'm dynamic hat. I don't know why I put it this, but here it is. The entire content, the H2 if I'm not mistaken, and the P, the paragraph, became only I'm a dynamic hat. Node type. Let's see the node type right now. Number 1. They are identified by numbers. As I said, if you go to W3 schools, you will see all the node type. Node value, null. Node name, div. Here it is. Get attribute and set attribute. This is very, very important. Get and set attributes. In HTML, we call whatever it's enclosed into this angle brackets attributes. So this is the ID attribute, this is a type attribute, this is a rel attribute, href attribute, and so on and so forth. So those are the attributes. Those are called attributes. And we are getting the attribute class, and after that we set attribute class content. Okay, so what we are doing right now here with the JavaScript, we are assigning a class to the div. Let's define such class content, and I'm gonna say that I want the font size, for example, to be 2em, which should be making it twice as big as should be. So let's try again and see what happens. Here we go. With JavaScript we just assigned a class attribute. So in other words, it is the same like coming here and saying class equals content intent. But we are not doing this directly, statically in the HTML. We're doing this dynamically with the help of JavaScript. Actually, no, the class should be defined here, of course. So if we have to do it manually and hard-code it, we would do this. But as you can see, JavaScript can do the job for us and can assign this attribute to this HTML element, this HTML tag. Okay, so far so good about the DOM manipulation. This is how we manipulate the DOM. Now remoting, and the third one will be the dynamic behavior. We have to admit that Microsoft, let me see if I have something else to say here. Document, I wanted to show you how can we create an element. Okay, so dynamically with JavaScript we can create elements which have been missing in the original HTML. How can we do that? That's quite interesting. These alerts we don't need anymore, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this node list where I'm getting the div elements. See, I have a node list, and I mentioned to you already why I'm using the identifier node list, but I'm not naming it somehow else. I use node list just to remind me that this is an array of elements, is not only one element. Here I'm creating a new element, document, create element, and I'm gonna create another div. Element set attribute class. So let's create another class which is called head, because we're gonna use that. And I'm gonna say that, for example, font size, let's make it 3 times bigger, and see what happens. 3 times bigger, and let's say the color is green. The color of this of the text will be green. Set attribute class head, node list 0, append child element. See, right now here after the P we will be creating a new element. After this paragraph we will create a new element which is another div. Of course we should be setting something so we will be able to see it. Let's say element inner HTML. Inner HTML, I have been added by JavaScript. See how can we create elements and insert them in the DOM tree. Inner HTML append child. Another thing we can do is we can insert this newly created element before a given element. I'm not gonna demonstrate that right now, but you got the idea. So let's continue now. Let's see what happens. Here we go. This is wrapped in our div. Here it is. we have subtitle. Here we go. This is my test, comes from here. And now, as you can see, we have something which doesn't exist in our HTML. We just have created dynamic element and added to the div. Okay, now let's see what else. That's it about this part, do manipulation. This time I really will comment all this. And second point is the remote manipulation. Now I'm not gonna probably explain all the variants, but I'm gonna give you the most used one, which is asynchronous communication with the server. Here I have put at 8 variants, probably because of the combination between guest post, synchronous, asynchronous, and text and HTML. Yeah, exactly. See, the text which we get back, because HTTP is a text protocol, hypertext transfer protocol, we always get text from the server, but this text can be XML or a text. On its turn, the text can be treated many different ways. The text which we get back from the server could be HTML snippet. We just can say inner HTML equals whatever we get from the server. The second is we can get data. It's again text, but we treat it differently. We just look at to this text differently. It could be, for example, JSON, JavaScript object notation, and we can say eval and get one object immediately. The third way, we can look at the data as a JavaScript. Actually, this is a plugin. I'm just throwing ideas how can be used whatever we get back from the server. Okay, so now we have to do a little bit preparation. Because of the browser's incompatibilities, first we have to get an object, XML, XHR object, which will help us to communicate with the server. This object firstly has been invented by Microsoft. Yeah, let's see here, assigned to undeclared variable. Oh yeah, I have to, of course, declare this variable. I don't have to look at in my example to do that. I just will say var, and that's it. We're done. Okay, let me explain you now what happens. Window is the object built by the browser. We're looking for a property called XML HTTP request. In fact, this is a constructor which will help us to create the XHR object, XML HTTP request object, which we are gonna use to communicate asynchronous with the server. For all the browsers, but not Internet Explorer, this object is called, this class or method, if you want to call it this way, it's called XML HTTP request property. Let's call it property. If the browser is all the Internet Explorer, then we'll have this property defined. And here I have put it even the version of the browsers. To the very same variable we assign a different objects. They have the same method and properties. Actually, we're using a different methods, functions, constructors to construct the same object, XML HTTP request. In Internet Explorer, using this constructor. In all other browsers, we're using this one. And finally, if our browser doesn't support XHR, XML HTTP request, we are throwing an error. Actually, we are not throwing an error. We're just informing the user that, sorry, your browser doesn't support XHR. Okay, let's see that everything works. Yes, it does. So far, so good. This is because of the browser incompatibilities. In the perfect world, we just would say window XML HTTP request. This is what we actually will say. XML HTTP new window XML HTTP request, and we will get the object. But in the real world, as you can see, we have to do this this juggling just to get to this object. Okay, so the next thing to do, once we have the object, we can communicate with the server right now. You can see all the variants in the mind map. And the example, I'm gonna use just asynchronous communication with the server with GET. Okay, so this is how it looks. We say XML HTTP open get, and here we have to point to a file in our server, on our server, and I'm gonna call it, just for simplicity, experiment text, just to demonstrate the idea. And I'm gonna create such file here in my folder, new file, experiment text, and I'm gonna say here I'm coming from the server XHR. Okay, it's one static file, but it's very easy to imagine that instead of just connecting to this file, static file, we can access a PHP script which can have a logic and take the data from the database and return whatever we need. And as I said, this whatever we need could be treated as data, could be treated as JSON, could be treated as HTML snippets, could be treated as JavaScript. Our PHP script can generate all this text information for us. So this is how we open. The true means asynchronous, send, and after that, notice what we will do. Of course, you can send parameters here on the standard way. Parameter 1 equals value 1, but that happens only if there is a PHP script or other script language on the server. Right now, I'm just accessing one static file. XML HTTP on ready state change. We are creating another event listener here. A callback is the function which we call here. And if the ready state is 4 and XML HTTP status is 200, which means the file has been found, we will show the response text. Okay, if the text which we're returning is XML, this object actually will contain an object which represents a DOM tree. Or if the text which we get is JavaScript, JSON, this is how can evaluate and get one object as well. Right now our example is very simple, so I'm just getting a text from the server. Okay, let's see if that works. Here we go. What happened is, behind the scene we have connected to the server, we have extracted data, and as you can see we're displaying this data right now in alert message, but we could do something else. We could replace for example the content of our div element which we had somewhere, and of course I commented, but using our knowledge about the DOM manipulation, we easily can replace the text which comes from the server. Actually not the text which comes from the server, but the text which we have in the HTML we can replace with the text coming from the server. Or we can use our DOM tree which we have built, or we can use our JavaScript which comes from the server as a plugin, whatever. So the third thing is to show exactly that, to show you the dynamic behavior, to show you how JavaScript actually can respond on certain events which are happening in the browser. Here we go, dynamic behavior. Here, because of the browser incompatibilities, we again will use such things. Wait a second, just a second. I'm gonna copy the entire snippet here. And I'm gonna explain it to you. Oops. If you learn these three approaches or tricks, or if you want to call it ninja forms, ninjutsu, you will make your life easy, and actually you will be able to start creating a simple JavaScript applications, which probably will lead you to creating more difficult applications, but you'll have a lot of fun, because in fact you don't have to refresh anymore the browser to get information from the server. Okay, this is how it goes. Again, I'm getting a node list, and because I have only one div right now on the HTML, getting it here with 0. This is our first div element, and the only one on the page. I'm defining actually a new function. This is the function event handler. This function will be executed when the event happens, and here I'm demonstrating actually how I can get the event object, and how I can reach the element which has emitted this event. In the older Internet Explorers, actually the event object is not sent as a parameter. It is a global, if you want to call it this way, it's a global property of the window object. This is how we can get the event object. From the event object we can extract the target or the context. Some authors are calling it context. So here it is, the element which is responsible for emitting this event, and this is how you get it: event, target, and in Microsoft world it's called event source element. The mouse was over me element inner HTML. So what we're gonna do is when I move my mouse over the div element, which in this case consists two other elements. So if I move my mouse over subtitle or test my this is my test, we will get alert message. The mouse was over me. Okay. This is what the event handler does, or the callback. This function. Now, let's deal with the browser incompatibilities. In all other browsers, but not Internet Explorer, we add event listener to the element. Once we have the element, in order to assign a listener, this is what we have to do. Element add event listener. We check for this property. If it's supported, then we use it. We say what event are we listening for, and we say what is the function to be executed when this event occurs. If we have a property attach event, that's all the Internet Explorer, then we have to use for Microsoft Internet Explorer attach event. Again, notice on mouse over, and we execute the same function. And finally, DOM standard 0 element on mouse over. This was the oldest way to do that, to attach one event listener. We again execute the same function. Okay, let's try and see if that works. Now when I move my mouse, as I said, after refreshing, I should get one alert. I'm coming from the server. This is our communication with the server. Now let's see. Oops, the mouse was over me. This is my test. See? Subtitle. The mouse was over me. Subtitle. Okay, this is the dynamic behavior. Let's see what else do I want to tell you. I have two examples. There are a lot of events actually which we can handle and listen for. Delegation. This is I'm not gonna discuss this with you right now, but you can see the example in the here in the mind map. Another thing which I wanted to show you is the timeout and the interval. Those are interesting methods or properties of the window object. This is one I want to show you. Okay, so let's say we want something to happen after a certain amount of time has exceeded. Set timeout. Let me see if I have such function for you, such example. History dialog. Yeah, I'm gonna show you here. Those are interesting actually things, useful things, but as I said, I'm not gonna discuss this right now. Okay, so let's see how can we execute one function after a given interval of time over and over again. Let's first create a function which needs to be executed. Function to execute. I hope it's It's okay, this function. And I will simplify this function actually. It's too complicated. Function to execute, function top position 0 closure var. No, I'm not gonna do that right now. This is not what I wanna show you. What I wanna show you is just alert. Function to execute, Windows set interval 83. Those are milliseconds. So in order to have interval of 1 second, I have to put 1000 here. 1000. Alert 1000 milliseconds. Okay, so oh, I wanted to show you another. No, in the example I'm showing much more complicated stuff, so that's why I'm here. I'm not gonna do that. As I said, I am gonna simplify the example, and everybody can look at in the mind map, take the example from there. Here I just wanted to show you the simplest example, not the complicated one. So we'll see after every second we'll see a message. Actually, let me put here 10,000 because otherwise it's gonna be too often. So let's see what happened now. The mouse was over me now, and I'm not gonna do anything. I'm coming from the server. Let's wait and see if set interval function executes the function to execute. Here we go. After 10 seconds the function has been executed. After another 10 seconds the function again will be executed. This is how, for example, we can refresh the information which comes from the server. Instead of doing nothing and just alerting, here we can connect to the server, take something there and do something more useful. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to discuss with you today in this lecture. Thank you for your attention and see you next time.